Welcome to the 2024 Green Party Annual National Meeting and Presidential Nominating Convention. The Presidential Nominating Convention is not today, of course. That takes place on Saturday, August 17th. My name is Scott McLarty. I am the Media Director for the Green Party of the United States, gp.org. If you ever need to reach me, my email address is scott@gp.org. And this is the first of 4 press conferences before the convention. Today's press conference is an introduction to the convention and and other events that are taking place in connection with the convention. Tomorrow, Friday, August 16th, there will be 3 press conferences. The first is at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. That will be for Green Party candidates running for state and local office. The second one is at 11 a.m. for Green candidates running for the U.S. House and U.S. Senate. And then at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we have a special press conference featuring Green office holders. In other words, Greens who currently occupy elected office. All our press conferences are being recorded, and they will be posted on the Green Party's YouTube channel, which is Green Party Videos. And you can look that up on YouTube. The convention on Saturday begins at noon Eastern Time. It would be broadcast in English on the Green Party's YouTube channel and also our Facebook page. The Facebook page is facebook.com/GreenPartyUS. And I should also mention that the convention will be on Saturday, will be streamed in Spanish and Arabic. More information on that soon. You can check our website, gp.org, for updates and links, and also our Twitter page, which is @GreenPartyUS. And I will introduce our first speaker, who is Schmidt, who's a member of the Green Party's annual National Meeting Committee. Go ahead, Ali.
Thank you, Scott. I want to give a warm welcome to all of our attendees and viewers of this very exciting program. And I have a message from the Annual National Meeting Committee that I should read. And I will say that I am a member of the committee, but I'm not a leader of the committee. We have 2 leaders that I want to thank, Tama Yeager and Dee Taylor, and they have worked very hard for this meeting and to prepare our past meetings, and so they deserve a lot of credit for what we're able to offer and what we've accomplished. And let me go ahead and review what we are planning for this convention. We have some highlights that are workshops today and tomorrow, covering topics in the areas of electoral and campaign issues, anti-oppression, green issues, and party building from many of our committees and caucuses and other Green Party members. Our opening event tonight will feature a blessing and reflection by Dawn Neptune Adams, a member of the Penobscot Nation, and that'll be followed up with a performance by Wavy, who's a Green Party artist, who will deliver a unique musical experience with themes of global solidarity and interconnectedness. On Friday night, we have a fundraiser, and that will be featuring the incredible Lady Bunny. And there's 2 options for that. There is a meet and greet or a interview forum as well. Saturday is our big day. It's the Presidential Nominating Convention, which will be followed by a celebratory event with our presidential nominee. Sunday morning will feature state of the party presentations from our ballot access committee and our elections database manager. And finally, on Sunday afternoon, we'll have a strategy session with our presidential nominee. So I want to just emphasize again that the committee that has planned and organized this convention is made up of volunteers. A lot of people have given a lot of time and effort to make this happen. So I want to again express my gratitude in particular to Dee Taylor and Tama Yeager for everything that they've done, all the other Greens that have contributed, our Green Party staff, and thanks also to the media who are showing interest in the work that we do, and to the public who are watching as well. And I'll turn it back to you, Scott. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. Our next speaker will be Margaret Elisabeth, who is a member of the steering committee and also one of the two honorary co-chairs of the 2024 Green Convention. Margaret.
Thank you, Scott. Indeed, thank you all for joining us today. It's a very momentous and historic occasion for the Green Party of the United States. Hi, my name is Margaret Elisabeth, and I'm one of the honorary co-chairs for the Green Party of the United States Presidential Nominating Convention. This year, that takes place on Saturday, August 17th. The Green Party is also conducting its annual national meeting from today, August 15th, through Sunday, August 18th. The annual national meeting is open to all Greens and non-Greens who would like to attend. There's a registration form on our website, gp.org, and you can visit that and sign up while you still have time. The annual national meeting is the place where Greens from across the country gather to attend workshops, trainings, and generally socialize in a convivial atmosphere. Our presidential nominating convention takes place every 4 years and is a working conference for Greens only. The assembled PNC delegates have many responsibilities, including ratifying our platform, challenging provisions in the platform planks, representing their state party or caucus, and of course, casting their vote for president and vice president to represent the Green Party in the national election. I'm excited to be in the presence of so many people dedicated to creating an evergreen future for us all, and I'm honored and privileged to have been chosen as an honorary co-chair for the Presidential Nominating Convention. Thank you very much. Back to you, Scott.
Thank you, Margaret. And Margaret, tell us, what state are you in?
I'm in Washington.
Okay, thank you very much. One thing I'd like to add about the convention on Saturday, after the nomination takes place, we'll have a special press conference approximately 5 p.m. It'll depend on when the nomination ends. That press conference will feature the nominees for president and vice president who were chosen at the Green Party nomination. And to cover that, you need to have media credentials, which you can register for at the Green Party website. Anybody here covering this press conference is already registered for credentials, so that's fine. But we do hope to see you there at 5 p.m. I think that'll be a pretty big event. And now let's hear from Craig Cayetano, who is a steering committee member as well, and also the other honorary co-chair of the Green Party convention. Craig?
Thanks, Scott. And thanks to everybody that's watching this and attending. My whole thing here with the Green Party is we are all volunteer-based. We are working to offer an alternative to the two-party system. We've strived for numerous years, decades now, to really work to get alternative voice out there that represents peace, represents labor, and other major issues, social justice issues that are left behind when it comes to the two-party system. Me, myself, I've been with the party since 2016. I'm proud to serve in New Jersey, rolling up the ranks through volunteering on different campaigns, on local, state, congressional level campaigns. We've also, from there, running on committees and learning how the processes of the party works. And then I was humbly elected to serve as steering committee and have done my best to try to work with my fellow co-chairs to try to prepare for this meeting here. And I'm glad that everybody's attending. And obviously our goal is to work towards a in-person one for the next go around. But right now we're going to give a fantastic show here. And I thank everybody for attending.
Thank you, Craig. And now we will open up the floor to questions. So if you have a question, you can just chime in.
I do have a question. I'm curious about the security situation. I'm happy this convention's finally virtual, just for the efficiency's sake. And then I don't know, in terms of how the party is coordinating with its nominees going forward on security issues. I know that the nominee Stein requested Secret Service protection, but is there anything the party's thinking about in terms of supplementing campaign security going forward in a uniquely dangerous climate?
Does someone want
I'll
to
take
answer
that.
that question? Margaret?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you, David. And you're right to acknowledge the unique climate that we're in right now in terms of political things. The Green Party itself doesn't have any means to provide additional security to a nominee. So at this point, we have no plans to do that. We, of course, support the campaign's request for Secret Service protection and hope it's granted, especially as we move closer to the actual election date and whomever wins our nomination. So hopefully that'll be something that is a kind of a non-issue as we go forward in the election cycle. They'll have protection, but it won't be needed.
Thank you. So, does anybody else want to respond to that, or can we move to? Should we move to the next question? I see Eric Appleman has his hand up. Eric.
How are you, Scott? Good to see you. Amazed you're still doing this. Just the whole notion of doing a Zoom convention, it seems to me like to be blunt, self-marginalizing strategy. And I'm wondering if you can provide some background on how you came to decide to do that rather than an in-person. I understand the environmental implications, but the benefits of doing an in-person convention in terms of networking are so great. And even the Constitution Party was able to manage a in-person convention. So I'm wondering if anyone can speak to that.
That's actually a good question. And, there are advantages to both a virtual and a live on-site convention. This is the first time I've ever moderated a press conference while being barefoot. Does somebody want to respond to Eric? Ali?
So I can speak to that, and it looks like Margaret has thoughts as well. The process for selecting where and how to do the convention is in the hands of our national committee. So the annual national committee who plans these events put out a request for proposals. Proposals did come in for 2 different options for on-site conventions. And then an option was also prepared for a virtual convention. And those 3 options were presented to the national committee. We had a series of meetings and information sessions, and a lot of budgets and details were put into all the different options. And based on that, our national committee voted and selected the virtual option as the best option for our party. And of course, there's pros and cons. Definitely understood that in-person networking has a benefit. There are many benefits to an online event, especially accessibility to people who may not be able to afford to travel, either afford financially to travel to a convention or afford the time away from work, a time away from family, and so on. Based on many different factors, a vote was taken and the virtual event was chosen. And the bottom line is it was a democratic decision from our national committee that selected the virtual event.
Can I just do quick follow-ups? What were the 2 cities that were considered, and was the vote at all close, or was it
I believe it was Seattle, Washington, and Las Cruces, New Mexico were considered. And I do not recall the vote, but I believe it was not especially close.
Mhm. Okay, thanks very much.
Did someone else want to respond to that? Margaret?
Thank you. That's a great question. So we did our first virtual convention in 2020, like all the parties did. And that was our first real experience of any sort with a virtual convention. And what we discovered, as Ali alluded to, was the accessibility for many of our members who do find it difficult to travel and spend 4 days wherever it might be located. So I think the plan for the Green Party going forward, irrespective of what we decide in terms of our votes, is to try to have a hybrid convention. Even if it is in person, we'd still like to make it as accessible as possible to every Green and person who'd like to attend. Clearly, using Zoom and other online technologies is the way of the future in that regard. And I feel pretty good that the Green Party is, I don't want to say leading the effort in that way, but we're definitely trying to use as many of the technological advantages that we can use to affect the kind of political change we would like in the country.
Yeah, the hybrid idea sounds like that would have been a plus plus. So thanks very much.
And one thing I can add to that is, as a result of holding a virtual convention, our carbon footprint is very low. Very little in the way of fossil fuels are being burned for this event.
Good.
Okay, we'll take another question. I would like to pose a question to the participants, and that is, what does the Green Party hope to accomplish in this convention, and especially in the context of the rather tense presidential race, among other races, that is going on right now in 2024. Let's hear from Craig and then Margaret.
So like myself, a few years back when I first experienced these meetings, it's great to hear and connect, through workshops and hearing, similar issues. So I'm excited for my delegation from New Jersey that's going to appear and attend the convention, because there's a lot of youth and newer Greens that are actually, onboarded onto our state party. And a few of them are actually running for higher office this year. We're running a Green 13 slate. So I'm excited to see that. I'm excited, obviously, to catch up with other fellow Greens that I've met over the years as well and see them through our different interactions. And obviously, it's great to present this outwards because, being virtual, that allows a lot more people to log in, participate along their schedule. And we're doing our best to obviously make this a very diverse presentation. And I'm very proud that we were able to work with getting Arabic, more details to come. And even we're working to stream on Twitch to appeal to a different, broader base. Over.
Margaret?
So I think that's a great question. So the National Party, broadly speaking, like we have a strategic objective, of course, to create a viable third party in the United States that is an anti-war party. So to accomplish this goal, we are, like every presidential cycle, our goal is to cross the 5% general election threshold, which is a massively big deal. Many Americans, perhaps most, don't understand how political parties go from being new parties to minor parties to major parties. It's a very incremental process, and it requires nationally recognized candidates across all the states working together to get the general vote. It doesn't have anything to do with the Electoral College. This is just the general vote. And if we get over 5%, we become a minor party in the United States. Right now, we're not one. And that is the goal, broadly speaking, for the National Party, to make sure we're mobilizing our effort to get across that 5% threshold. Campaigns have their own goals, of course, right? And they coordinate with us. But broadly speaking, we take the long view that we need to move step by step to get to where we want to be. 5%, then 15, and then we're a major party and we get to be on the debate stage. But one of the big things, as you probably know, is the Green Party every 4 years has to go through a tremendous ballot access effort, which is basically all volunteer driven by everyone in our party all across the country. When you become a minor party, you are given ballot access the next election cycle. We would not have to spend our time and money to do this every 4 years. That's a clear benefit, especially for small parties like us, the Libertarians, every third party. So I think that is probably the driving strategic consideration that the National Party has. Hit that goal, get to the next level as a political party.
You mentioned the debates, and I guess we're talking about the presidential debates. In a fair democratic election, any candidate who is on enough ballots to conceivably win really does deserve to be invited to the presidential debate stage. That's a very strong point that we've made over and over. You also mentioned the Electoral College. What does the Green Party, Margaret, what does the Green Party think of the Electoral College?
We've got a fairly dim view, I must say. Our platform position is that the Electoral College should be abolished, and we should replace that system with proportional representation, ranked choice voting by the people directly for the president. I think that is a very fair system, and one which our country perhaps 200 years ago couldn't have done, but we don't live there now. We live in 2024, and the ability to do this is easy. It's simply a matter of political will.
And I think that's one of the reasons that the Green Party considers itself a truly democratic party, not one that's posing as a democratic party. Eric, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. My first Green Party, I don't know whether it was a convention, but Ralph Nader at UCLA in 1996. And I just don't see a trajectory of growth for the Green Party. And I'm wondering if anyone can speak to that. And let's start at the top. You're running Jill Stein for the third time, if I'm not mistaken. And wouldn't it make sense to have if you try the same thing over and over again, you're going to get the same result. So where is the Green Party heading, to be blunt?
Craig and then Margaret.
So our intent was we every cycle we have a nomination process, and this cycle I was the liaison to the Presidential Campaign Support Committee, and we were fielding numerous candidates, and there were some candidates that were involved and went through the steps of the process, and some end up not. And in this case, Dr. Stein filled in when there was a vacuum by one of the candidates deciding to leave the process. And we're grateful because the point of this is to keep building towards 5% and beyond. And we have ballot lines that already had established that we weren't going to just let go by the wayside. So we literally have an apparatus. Well, let me say this. The National Party has an obligation to continually work towards ballot access, not just for the presidential candidates, but for all the other candidates underneath them. And that's why Dr. Stein decided to take the helm here, and their campaign is able to put together what's necessary in a short amount of time. So that's why we're two separate pieces of the puzzle working towards this end goal. And by getting this ballot access, that's what's going to help down ticket candidates as well. I was mentioning about New Jersey. We have our first full slate of candidates. We're running 12 congressional candidates and a U.S. Senate candidate to help back Dr. Stein. In New Jersey, there's been a lot of legal wranglings over the ballot lines and trying to abolish the line here. We've fought for years to try to get rid of that and have a more fair line here in New Jersey in terms of how the ballots are represented, but they fought in the primary, but that's not helping us. So we need to have a full slate of candidates to make sure that we have presence on our ballot in November. So it works hand in hand. Running at the top is going to help, obviously, everybody else in between. And I think that's what the overall goal is.
Margaret?
So that's an interesting observation. Ralph Nader running in 1996. From a historic perspective, Ralph was running with a different group. We as a political party formed in 2001. So we're a different Green Party than that was. We are, in fact, the merging of the two national Green parties that existed at that time. That was the Association of State Green Parties and the Green Party of the United States of America. So there was a merging of those two, forming us, the Green Party of the United States. So that there's that. I think that from the perspective of a candidate winning our nomination multiple times and then leading that effort, again, as Craig mentioned, Dr. Stein kind of stepped in last minute to start a campaign after other candidates had dropped out. And we do have others seeking our nomination, perhaps not as well known as Dr. Stein for various reasons. That said, I think that it is really instructive when we look across the political landscape at how presidential campaigns are used to guarantee ballot lines in states. As Craig was mentioning, here in Washington, we don't have state party registrations. People are just able to be members only if they join their local party, and it's kept by the secretary, but there's no party registration whatsoever. So down ballot access here is different than in New Jersey, and it's important for us as a national party to keep the perspective of all 50 states and what they require for candidates to be listed. Broadly speaking, this means that as a national party, we need to have a presidential candidate running in at least 20 states with a vice president candidate as well, all on those places. And then we'll have ballot access in many states guaranteed to us. When we don't have that, our candidates can still run in their respective states, but then they're required to list themselves as independents or something like prefers Green Party as opposed to actually being a member. As a party trying to establish let's say a brand identity, it's very important for us to make sure that our candidates who are Greens are listed as Greens. I think that too, there's probably a bit of a misunderstanding with how the Green Party at least conducts campaigns versus the other major parties and such. So as you all probably know, like with the Democrats, there was an anointing process. The delegates didn't get a vote, the people haven't gotten a vote, and now there's a candidate, huzzah. Well, in the Green Party, it doesn't work like that. We have to go through this nomination process. And at the moment, there may be a front runner or not, but we don't have an anointed candidate until the nomination. Once we have one, the whole party pulls behind that candidate and moves collectively towards the strategic objectives. One, helping the candidate win, of course, but then also making sure we get our votes out and get people motivated to come and vote. I think that when you look at the vote totals as well, the last time Jill ran, she had the most votes that she had ever gotten. In 2020, it was, I don't know, it was a very strange year, of course, for lots of reasons, but COVID really changed everything. And I think that it was very, very hard for third parties, particularly hard, because we are not able to just collect the same kind of money through corporate donations and super PACs and things that the big parties could do. So, you know, our in-person gatherings, our fundraising efforts were massively curtailed. And I personally believe, I don't know if my colleagues agree, but I personally believe that was the reason why our voting in 2020 was not as strong as it was in 2016. Indeed, in 2020, we had the largest left unity ticket in the last 100 years of American electoral politics, which, if you are paying attention to the social media sphere now, there's a large appetite for a left unity ticket. We had one. And I think it was just a matter of COVID suppressing people going out and voting and all the rest that kind of put us back a bit in a step. So hopefully this campaign is going to represent the next evolution of our process with Dr. Stein's campaign.
I have to follow up on that left unity ticket. So, and no one has mentioned Cornel West. I mean, you refer to this candidate, but you don't mention his name. And
we knew.
Process determines outcomes. And do you need to re-examine some of your processes? I mean, Cornel West would have added a certain flair, and he was just deterred from running. What people have told me because of kind of like he just didn't want to jump through all your hoops. I'm not sure that's accurate, but that's what I've been told. And so I'm wondering if you can speak to that. I just feel like I understand the importance of having a presidential candidate, but new blood would probably be help you along more in that regard.
So
Right.
I'll,
Oh, go ahead, Margaret.
go ahead, Craig. You go first. I'll go second.
So one thing about our process is that the party is not directly involved in the campaigns and the campaign strategy. We're actually are staying objective and away from that. We were basically laying out guidelines and guidance, and the PCSC was trying to formulate forums. Some of the processes were still being worked through, and we had all the candidates come and speak to our committee. We've asked questions. Obviously, it's all about falling into some sort of an agreement on the platform and what they stand for, and that they're going to seek the nomination in the process. And we had discussed the possibility of forums, regional forums, which could then in turn obviously build the party and also bring attention to the candidates. And as a forum, as an open forum format, it's not a debate. It would actually be great for all the candidates to appear that were vying for the nomination. And that was still in the planning phase. That wasn't even finalized yet. And we had some of my colleagues in New Jersey, not myself, were having correspondence with Dr. West's campaign, just to lay this out there. And they had relayed back to me that he was going to be at the climate march, and a few of the state chapters were there at the climate rally in New York, which was a great turnout. We had some brief correspondence there, but after that, all we knew and what we heard was that he was attending an event in DC speaking, and then the next day we had heard that he was going to announce something, and that's it. There was no further correspondence between Dr. West and the PCSC committee. There was no other correspondence with Dr. West and the steering. Nobody else had any correspondence with Dr. West. And the only reason why we found out afterwards was because Dr. Stein was working with Dr. West to establish the campaign, obviously assist the campaign with the ballot and some of the processes that Dr. Stein already knew from the previous presidential cycles that she had participated in. So we had just heard through other people what was going on, and that this is what Dr. West decided. And that's basically it. We've had no correspondence. We never got a chance to speak further to try to welcome Dr. West back, but we weren't afforded that opportunity.
Margaret?
So Dr. West attended our annual national meeting last year. We had an opportunity to talk to him, many of us did, and speak to him about his aspirations for green nomination, and he was all on board. He hasn't communicated to the Green Party directly. Of course, there are YouTube videos where he's asked about these things, and he does address some of it. But the long and the short of it is that we don't have an anointing process. You have to go through each state's primary. Each state has their own primaries, and it starts basically in January all the way up until July. And my impression was that after he had been selected by the People's Party to be their nominee, just off the top of the ticket, that was the expectation coming into the Green Party, that we would do the same thing. Even if we wanted to, we don't have the ability to. Our rules preclude that. So I think there was some of that to it. But of course, until he speaks directly on this issue, it is a bit of a speculatory, endeavor. I think that you're right. It would have been a really energizing moment for the party, a very different sort of activist person taking the baton and leading us into the future. But that's not a role that everyone is actually wanting to do or is suited for. So I think that perhaps this worked out in the best way possible for the Green Party itself, even though we recognize this is a challenging moment for us. to be 100% honest, I think we were all aware that Dr. Stein wasn't looking to run this cycle. She was happy to consult with Dr. West on his campaign. And so when he dropped out, she gamely took the baton and ran. But I think it's just a matter of aptitude and appetite for the sort of politicalness that going through the process is. And not, it's not, sometimes it's not fun. I'll leave it at that.
I think it's important to point out that the Green Party does have some hoops to jump through if you're going to declare a presidential campaign, and we do that because we do not want people running empty vanity campaigns or people who are unable to raise money for their campaigns or organize a credible campaign structure. Those candidates are not going to get anywhere. And so we want to make sure that the candidates who run with us are going to be very serious. And those hoops that you have to jump through, they're not really all that difficult. They're basically just reporting the basic necessities of establishing a campaign. And there's also a substantial difference between a candidate running as an independent and a candidate running on a party ticket. When a candidate runs as an independent, the campaign is over on election day or on election evening, and everything's done after that. There is no further legacy. Someone who runs on a party ticket is running to build that party. Jill Stein and the other candidates who are running for president, who have run in the past, they all ran to help build the Green Party as a permanent alternative to the two parties of war and Wall Street. And as I like to say, we need, in the United States, we don't really need another John Anderson. If you remember the 1980 presidential campaign where he ran as an independent. His campaign had no effect, no political effect on the American political landscape after the end of his campaign. We do need people like Ralph Nader when he ran as a Green, and of course the Green Party candidates since then, candidates who have run since people like Eugene Debs back in the 19 teens and the 20s, who ran to build a real alternative to the two major parties. We'll take one more question if anybody has one. David?
Yeah, composite, see the most important one. In terms of trying to build the party, grow the party, right now the likely nominee, the main device they're using is the support for Gaza Palestinians. And really it's the chief difference, seems to be the chief difference between what we're seeing from the Democrats and Republicans. They seem to just be signing up for genocide. And it seems like an obvious split in the voters. The voters should be, who aren't down with genocide, should be coming to the party. And then seems to be an opportunity for building beyond that issue, but that's sort of up to the candidates. And I'm wondering, is there any thoughts in terms of I don't know who is the party aware of the nominees' shortlisted candidates? I know that their campaign issued sort of a short list, and has the party weighed in terms of that selection process, in terms of building the party and perhaps going beyond the genocide issue?
We'll have someone answer that question. I said just one more question, but Nathan has a question too. He has not had a question yet, so we'll allow his after this question from David is answered. Can someone respond to David Curtis? Craig?
I would say that It's one of the obviously issues in forefront, but it's not just that. It's also Medicare for all, expanded Medicare for all. But the party again is out in the streets. Every state is out in the streets. We're supportive of the movement, and we've made a lot of work. And I'll be honest, in New Jersey here, we have a very, and where I reside also in North Jersey, we have a very strong Jewish population, but I'm also proud to say we have a strong Jewish population that has been in the streets with us leading on this issue and wanting a free Palestine. And those are the allies that we've made here in New Jersey. I know my chapters in New York as well, and I'm sure across the country, a lot of the other state parties have as well. And that's the strength we're working together on, that we're finally bringing this issue to the forefront, which should already been to the forefront. And basically, I think that it's one of the major things that we need to focus on. But you have other stuff going on right now with Medicare for all, and as the Harris-Walz, campaign rolls out, you're going to see some of those people see that the same things and the same results and same policies are going to continue with that party, and I'm sure they're going to migrate over. So we're doing our work right now to build here, to obviously have this convention. We've got a lot of people coming in and attending, and we can't wait for afterwards to have the mobilization that we need to get behind Dr. Stein, because I'm sure it's going to be a rude awakening to a lot of the other parties when it comes to the final vote total.
Margaret, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, absolutely. So broadly speaking, the campaigns choose their candidates irrespective of the national party. We don't offer any input or advice to the campaigns on who they should choose as running mates or not. So in this case, the national party has been made aware of the potential candidates they might pick to go with, and we're waiting eagerly for their announcement tomorrow on who they're going to actually be selecting of that short list. The BDS movement, of course, is part and parcel of our platform and has been for many years. 2017, I believe, is when we adopted that. And so that's been a driving force in our engagement across the entire country, and something we've been really pushing to distinguish ourselves. I think it's not new, of course, the issue going on in Gaza, right? This is something that has been generations in the making. And so the Green Party itself has always taken a very clear-eyed approach to understanding that conflict and taking a revolutionary approach in how to resolve it from the point of view of being the United States. Obviously, I think we're all aware that the United States is providing billions of dollars to Israel to continue this effort. And I know that sometimes it's like unclear what, for instance, a Green president could do to stop this if they didn't have a Congress and a Senate who was also supporting them. Executive action is exactly the way that would work. They would simply stop funding that. And, that doesn't end the genocide directly, but it definitely slows it down and puts it on the end path. And there's no real moral alternative. I want to speak plainly here about this to everyone listening and watching. If killing children isn't your red line, you need to fix your heart. There's something wrong.
It's clear in 2024 that what's going on in Gaza is the most dramatic and immediate crisis that the Green Party is addressing, but there are other very substantial differences between the Green Party and the two major parties. And Craig mentioned the Green Party's support and demand for improved and expanded Medicare for all, but we should also mention the climate crisis on which the Biden administration has been dragging its feet, and President Biden has continued to approve lots of new drilling. There was a quote, I think the quote came from you, Craig, in one of our recent press releases, that the difference between Democrats and Republicans on the climate crisis is the difference between driving your car off a cliff at 65 miles per hour and driving your car off a cliff at 90 miles per hour. The Green Party offers a a strong alternative to that in the eco-socialist Green New Deal. And I recommend the Green Party, I recommend looking up the Green Party's Green New Deal on our website. It's substantially different, more far-reaching than the Democratic Party's watered-down version. And I should also remind everyone here that it was the Green Party, and especially Howie Hawkins in 2010, who introduced the Green New Deal in the United States. The Green New Deal is not a Democratic Party idea at all, and they've tried to water it down somewhat. Let's take a final question now from Nathan.
Hi, so my question is, there's been a lot of talk about the presidential, but what sort of Senate and congressional campaigns are you sort of really focusing on? Because I know ballot access is scarce currently.
Before I call on someone to answer that, I'll remind everyone that there is a press conference tomorrow at 11 a.m. On this very channel featuring Green candidates for congressional and senatorial office. Margaret, I think I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to, of course, let Craig talk about the candidates in New Jersey, because there's some fantastic ones. Here in Washington State, we just had Jason Call running for Congress in Washington's District 2. So that's where Rick Larsen is. And Rick Larsen is a war hawk, the hawkiest of the war hawks that you could be. There is no real challenge. So Washington State is a heavily blue state, at least on the west side of the mountains, and a heavily red state on the east side of the mountains. So it's kind of an interesting dichotomy. But here on the west side of the mountains, there is no real challenge to the blue monopoly that is up and down our coast. And because of Washington's unique geography, we are home to massive defense contractors. Of course, Boeing is here. We've got the Puget Sound Naval Center and all the rest. So this is a huge concern for us as both Greens and environmentalists just in general. As I think we're all pretty aware, the United States military is the single largest polluter on the planet in terms of sheer CO2 output. So any kind of effort we can make to limit that is worthwhile. I think that across the country, part of the strategy for state parties and the national party as well, we have a national committee called the Coordinated Campaign Committee. That is our national committee, which helps all local state races with loans and donations and volunteer effort. So that is part of how the national party helps those candidates. And we have them running in various states. I know here I mentioned Jason Call. Jason is also Jill's campaign manager for this run. So it's been an exciting time here in Washington. And we had Andre Stackhouse running for governor as well. Unfortunately for us, the blue powers are overwhelming here. And I'm sure if you've been out in the streets, you've heard this time and time again, oh, well, now is not the time for a third party because, oh my gosh, Trump. So this is a common refrain, and I think it's a real challenge for third parties to get past the fear. So many people are scared, and I think that fear is a strong motivator. So when you have people who can articulate a brave new vision of the future that isn't based in fear, it's very appealing, even though people still tend to vote based on their fear responses.
Craig?
Thank you for the question. The New Jersey machine has been working overtime lately, and we all know of a infamous Bob Menendez. And Menendez was challenged years ago by Madeline Hoffman. And honestly, I wish Governor Murphy would allow Madeline Hoffman to serve out the remainder of the term, because she was the true Democratic candidate on the ballot as a Green here in New Jersey. Christina Khalil is running for U.S. Senate. She had migrated over to the Green Party. She was a Democrat. She had tried to make headway in that party, and they had told her that no, they didn't want her. She had to work up through the ranks. And that's sadly the case I've heard, not just from from her and her race, but from numerous races. I've had even for little things like the Democratic county committee seats in your towns here. So up and down the ballot, you hear you have to work your way up. You have to find your way in. They have to tap you on the shoulder. So Christina Harity had put together her campaign. We had met last year and met with her and brought her over, and her issues are obviously going to be huge to address. Obviously, you have a housing crisis going on. She's all for expanded Medicare for all, climate crisis, and she's been targeted. She's an Egyptian woman running in this race, and nobody's going to cover her now because she's left the two-party system and has come over to us. So she's working overtime to draw attention to these issues and to her campaign. And then you hear the horse racing between Murphy and his wife running, and then Andy Kim running, and all this is overshadowed. The issues at hand here in New Jersey is to try to get somebody that's running to bring about some legitimate change. And honestly, we just need to get one senator elected. And Christina could be that glass ceiling moment where you have influence over the whole rest of the body. As for Congress, we have this slate of candidates, 12 candidates that make up the 12 congressional races. We have Bo Forte in Congressional District 5. He's running against Josh Gottheimer. We have who's running also on improved Medicare for all because of a personal issue with his own father that passed away, and the issues around obviously medical debt and medical costs. We have people like Robin Brownfield running for Congress in CD1, who's running against the Norcross family, and the Norcrosses were also indicted. The brother was just indicted again. There's an appetite for change, and somebody like Robin down in Congressional District 1 could also win that House race, because a few years back there was a candidate that ran a Republican Party against Steve Sweeney. I think it was Steve Durr, and he broke through. Nobody thought he was going to win, and he won because everybody's just so sick and tired of the same Democrat with the same machine politics winning, and he just broke through. Robin has that ability to break through. And there's a few other candidates. I'll be quick, though, obviously. Lily Benavides in Congressional District 11 is running against Mikey Sherrill, who is obviously all about anti-war. Mikey is proud to campaign on these things. It's ridiculous. And then you have things like, sadly, the passing of the Congressional District 10 candidate, and they're holding a special election, and they wouldn't even include the candidate that we have running now for the general election, John Serrano. Lastly, you have Bill Pascrell. I think he's almost the same age as Biden. Maybe he's actually a few years older. I'd have to double check. But he's been in and out of the hospital for weeks. Mm-hmm. And is he actually running for his seat? Or is he just, again, filling because it's past a deadline where they can fill the spot now? And we have Ben Taylor, who's stepped up to run in that district, CD9. And he's out there trying to, get breakthrough and get attention to the issues in that district. So it just takes, obviously, the courage of these people stepping up on the issues that they feel are close to their heart. We just need to break through and win. I think one victory is all we really need. If it be hopefully here in New Jersey, or if it hopefully be in one of the states that are here watching this, obviously, and running candidates, we just have to break through. And I have confidence that it's going to happen. And I'm hoping it's this cycle.
On that note, we will conclude this press conference. I invite everyone here to join us tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Press conference for Green candidates running for state and local office, 11 a.m. candidates running for the U.S. House and Congress, and then at 1 p.m. A press conference featuring Greens who are holding public elected office now. I thank everyone who showed up today, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.